Hi Reddit. I'm Bella. I'm 23, and my life turned into a full-blown nightmare the second I got pregnant. Not because of the baby, because of the people around me, especially my own mother. Let's rewind a bit. I didn't grow up in the kind of home where people hugged each other for no reason. It was always about survival. We never had much. No dad in the picture. Just me, my little brother, and my mom grinding it out day after day. No time for softness. Definitely no space for mistakes. So when I found out I was pregnant, I knew I had just made a massive one. Or at least, that's what everyone made me feel like. The father? Yeah, let's talk about that loser. We'd been dating for 7 months. I wasn't in love, but I wanted to believe he was different. He was sweet when he wanted to be. The type to text good morning, beautiful, but forget your birthday. That kind. I found out I was pregnant at 9 weeks. I told him in his car outside his place, hands shaking, expecting shock at worst. Instead, he laughed. I thought you were smarter than that, he said, like I had intentionally ruined his life. I didn't even cry. I just sat there, numb. He stared at me, then added, well, I'm not ready to be a dad, so you better figure something out. I walked home. No text, no call, no check-in. I never heard from him again. You'd think the worst part was over, that I could finally just deal with it on my own terms. But then came my mother. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just looked at me like I'd spat in her face. What the hell were you thinking? She said that night. You can't even take care of yourself. I expected anger. I didn't expect the cold silence that followed. Weeks of it. The only time she did talk to me was to make sure I knew just how unfit I'd be as a mother. You think raising a baby's about picking out cute onesies? You don't have a job. No savings. Not even a plan. And it didn't stop there. She started hiding mail, refused to help me with doctor's appointments, and every time I brought up anything baby-related, diapers, cribs, baby names, she'd say, don't waste your time. You're not keeping it. Not we can't keep it. Not, you might want to think about adoption. Just cold, final, you're not keeping it. I kept telling myself she was just stressed, maybe scared. Maybe she'd change once the baby was here. God, I was so wrong. You don't even know how wrong I was. If you're still reading, buckle up. This is where things start getting messed up. So yeah, my mom made it very clear she thought keeping the baby was a mistake. What I didn't realize back then is that she wasn't just being harsh. She was making plans. Plans I had no clue about. At first, it was just subtle stuff. I'd come home from a checkup with ultrasound pictures, excited to show her, and she'd roll her eyes. You act like this is a celebration, she said once. It's not. It's a consequence. She refused to buy anything baby-related. Don't bring that crap into my house. She'd snap any time I tried to set up a drawer for baby clothes. She even started throwing out the little things I'd buy. One day, I found a tiny onesie I ordered gone. When I asked, she just said, maybe it got lost. Or maybe the universe is trying to tell you something. Yeah, real supportive. And the weirdest thing? She was way too involved in my medical care. Like, she insisted on going to every appointment. Not out of concern, more like surveillance. She'd interrupt the OBGYN constantly. Asked weird questions like, so, in case the baby needs to be adopted out, how early can that be arranged? Right in front of me. Like I wasn't even there. And every time I tried to speak up, she'd shoot me a look. That look every kid with a controlling parent knows. The one that says shut your mouth, or else. I started to push back. One day I told her, you're not raising this baby. I am. She just laughed. Laughed. You, she said, smirking. You don't even know how to raise yourself, Bella. That night, she took my prenatal vitamins and locked them up. I wish I was kidding. From then on, I had to sneak things into the house. I'd stuff diapers and baby socks into my backpack after visiting the free pregnancy center down the street. Hide them under my bed, like some teen hiding weed. But instead of drugs, I was hiding my daughter's future. And still, I didn't think she'd go that far. I thought maybe she was trying to scare me into changing my mind. That she was just being her over-controlling, manipulative self. I even told a friend once, she talks big, but she won't actually do anything. She knows better. God, I wish I could go back and slap myself for saying that. Because she absolutely knew what she was doing. And she wasn't working alone. See, around month 8, she started getting real buddy-buddy with this woman from her job. A mid-30s type, always dressed like she was about to walk into a bank and apply for a loan. Let's call her Melissa. Melissa started popping up out of nowhere. Once at a prenatal class. Another time she accidentally ran into us at the grocery store and offered to help carry bags. Friendly. A little too friendly. She asked weird questions. What's the baby's name gonna be? Are you feeling overwhelmed? If you ever need help, I love babies. I'd totally step in. I thought she was just awkward. I didn't realize she was scouting. Because yeah, Melissa wasn't just some friend. She was the woman my mom had picked to take my baby. But I didn't know that yet. I was just waddling through the last weeks of my pregnancy, exhausted, paranoid, in pain, and trying to hold myself together. I had no idea the real betrayal was already in motion, and it was going to hit me the second that baby was born. The night I went into labor, I knew something wasn't right. My contractions hit hard and fast. I called for my mom, thinking she'd panic like she usually does in any mildly stressful situation. But instead, she was calm. Too calm. Like she'd been waiting for this moment. While I was doubled over near the door, trying not to scream, she took her sweet time putting on makeup and changing clothes. I don't want to show up to the hospital looking like I crawled out of a ditch, she said casually. That was red flag number 1. By the time we got to the hospital, I could barely walk. They rushed me to triage, checked me, and told me the baby was breech. I'd need an emergency C-section. Immediately. I started panicking. My heart was racing. My whole body was shaking. I asked if I could call a friend to come be with me, but one of the nurses said, "There's no time. Your mother's already taking care of things." I didn't like the way she said that. They wheeled me into pre-op, and my mom walked beside the stretcher like she owned the place. She leaned down before they put the oxygen mask on me and whispered, "Don't worry, sweetie. Everything's going to go exactly the way it's supposed to." I wanted to ask her what she meant, but they didn't give me time to think. The next thing I remember, I was waking up in recovery. My throat was dry, and it felt like my entire stomach had been set on fire. I blinked through the blur and croaked the first words that came out. "Where's my baby?" No answer. I turned my head toward the nurse and asked again louder. "She's not here," the nurse said carefully. "She's already been discharged." That sentence made no sense. I thought I misheard her. What? I tried to sit up, pain ripping through my abdomen. "What do you mean discharged? She's a newborn. She's my baby." Another nurse came in and tried to keep me calm. They said I needed to rest and heal. They said I was emotional. They kept repeating, "Your mother handled the paperwork. Everything's already taken care of." I demanded to see the doctor. My OB. Anyone. Suddenly, no one was available. Out for the day. On break. Can't be reached. It felt like a cover-up. Like they all knew something I didn't. And then it hit me. My mother was gone. No one had seen her since the operation. Her phone was off. No messages. Nothing. She vanished. And so did my baby. I was stuck in a hospital bed, stitched together, shaking alone, while my mom disappeared with my daughter. In that moment, I knew one thing. She planned this. And she wasn't working alone that I stayed in that hospital bed for another 48 hours. And, I swear to you, it was the longest, most enraging 2 days of my life. No answers. No updates. No baby. Every time I asked a nurse about my daughter, they acted like I was the one being unreasonable. Like I was delusional for wanting to hold my own newborn. "She's safe," one said, avoiding eye contact. "Everything has already been processed," said another. No one would say where she was. Who took her? How they let a newborn leave without the mother's consent. And my mom, still gone. Not a single damn trace. Her phone was off. I messaged her through everything. Texts, Messenger, even emailed her. Nothing. Radio silence. The nurses kept treating me like a mental patient, like I was about to start flipping trays. Honestly, they weren't wrong. I was this close. I had staples in my stomach and rage in my chest, and no one was telling me a damn thing. On the second day, a social worker came in. I thought, finally, someone who will listen. Wrong. She sat down with this fake soft voice and said, "Hi, Bella. We just want to check on your emotional state. These situations can be difficult when emotions are high and family members are involved in sensitive decisions." I blinked. Sensitive decisions? What the hell does that mean? I snapped. "Are you seriously suggesting I agreed to this? You think I wanted to wake up from major surgery and find out my baby's gone?" She shifted uncomfortably, flipping through her clipboard like the answers were hiding under the paper. I kept going. "You let someone discharge my daughter without my signature. That's illegal. And if you think I'm letting this slide, you've got the wrong girl." The social worker tried to change the subject. Let's talk about your recovery process. Your mother said you were unsure about keeping the baby and that you felt overwhelmed. I cut her off so hard she flinched. She said what? She paused. Your mother told us she had power of attorney, that you were unfit, that you discussed an informal adoption with her friend. Her friend, Melissa. I swear my blood turned to acid. It all clicked. The weird hospital visits. The way she kept showing up coincidentally. The creepy questions. My mom was grooming me for this. Lining up a buyer. That wasn't some friend. That was a buyer. They sold my baby. That's when something snapped inside me. The pain? Gone. Fear? Burned out. I wasn't a helpless girl anymore. I was a mother. And someone stole my daughter. I forced myself out of bed that night. I could barely stand, but I didn't care. I ripped out my phone, grabbed my phone, and started making calls. Because if they thought I was going to just cry and disappear, they had no idea who they were messing with. I left that hospital less than 72 hours after a C-section. Against medical advice. Against everything, really. I didn't care. I was done lying in that bed, while strangers pretended I didn't exist. No baby. No rights. No voice. Not anymore. My body was wrecked. I could barely climb into the cab I called. The driver looked at me through the mirror like I was bleeding out, which, honestly, wasn't far from the truth. I went straight to the police station. I told the front desk officer my newborn had been taken without my consent, that I never signed discharge papers, that I believed someone had forged my information or bribed someone on the inside. He looked at me like I was insane. Then he said the words that made me want to flip the damn desk. If it was your own mother, and there was no official custody dispute, there's not much we can do without a formal legal order. You're telling me my baby can just be handed over to someone else, and that's not kidnapping? He shrugged. Shrugged. Technically, if she's a family member and she claimed you agreed, it gets messy. You'll need a lawyer. I walked out shaking. Not from fear. From rage. That same day, I filed for an emergency custody order at the courthouse. Took hours. Paperwork. Questions. A judge I never saw signed it. But it gave me what I needed, a legal statement that I was the sole mother and guardian of my child, and no one else had any rights. Now I just had to find her. First move, I called every hospital in the county. Asked if a newborn matching my daughter's birth info had been checked in, adopted, or transferred. Nothing. Second move, I went through my mom's contacts. Old text chains, call logs, anything. I remembered the name Melissa, the woman from the appointments. I searched her name and my mom's employer. Boom. Same HR department. I dug deeper. Found Melissa's LinkedIn. Tracked down her Facebook. It was private, but her profile pic showed her holding a baby. A newborn. You ever have that moment where your blood pressure drops and spikes at the same time? That was me. It wasn't proof. Not yet. But I knew. I knew that was my baby. I called the number listed for Melissa's department at work. Her extension. Voicemail. No surprise. So I sent her a message. Just 5 words. I know what you did. And she read it. Didn't reply. But guess what? That same night, her profile photo disappeared. Next morning, her whole account was gone. Deleted. Gone. That told me everything I needed to know. She had her. And now she was scared. Good. She should be. Because I wasn't stopping. Not until I had my daughter back, that I wasn't playing detective anymore. I was at war. That deleted Facebook profile told me Melissa was scared. Good. Fear makes people sloppy. I use an old trick I learned working admin temp jobs. Called her company's front desk, pretending to be from a pediatric clinic doing insurance verification. Asked for Melissa's current address on file. Got in 10 seconds. Now I had a name, a job, and an address. I didn't rush in. I wasn't about to knock on some door and start screaming. I needed evidence. Hard proof. Something I could shove in the court's face and say, see, that's my kid. So I sat in front of her house for 2 days. In a rented car. Hoodie up. No plates tied to me. The second day, around noon, it happened. She walked out the front door, holding a baby. A tiny baby. In a pink blanket with ducks on it. The exact blanket I bought from a thrift shop 4 months earlier. I remembered it because it still had a tiny ink stain on the corner. I nearly puked. That was her. That was my daughter. Melissa loaded her into a car seat and drove off. I followed from a few cars behind. She went to daycare, dropped the baby off like this was normal. Like she hadn't just participated in the real-life trafficking of someone else's child. I waited until she left, then walked in. I told the woman at the desk I was interested in enrolling my niece, and I'd heard this place was amazing. Played dumb, acted sweet, asked for a tour. While we walked around, I asked questions. Casual, friendly. Like, how old are the babies here? Do parents provide birth certs or hospital docs? That kind of thing. She said, oh yes, everything's on file. Every child here has full documentation, hospital records, custody verification if needed. I nodded, smiled, then asked, what about the little girl in the yellow onesie? I think her name's Layla. The woman paused, then said, oh, that's not her name anymore. My stomach flipped. I asked, oh, did the parents adopt her recently? She hesitated. Well, not technically adopted. It's a kind of private guardianship. Through the birth grandmother. The birth mother wasn't in a position to care for her. I felt like the room tilted sideways. I thanked her, walked out, got in my car, and shook for a full 10 minutes. They changed her name. They filed fake guardianship papers. They told the system I gave her up. And worst of all, it worked. They had official daycare records. A fake new identity. It was clean on paper. But paper lies. And I wasn't done. Next stop, the courthouse. I had a name. I had an address. And now, I had a timeline. It was time to drag this mess into the light. And I was done playing nice. The day I walked into that courthouse with everything I'd gathered, the emergency custody order, photos of Melissa with my baby, screenshots of the deleted profile, daycare statements, I wasn't scared anymore. I was pissed and focused. I filed an emergency petition for recovery of a minor. The clerk looked at the papers twice, then asked me to wait. 20 minutes later, I was in front of judge. I laid it out fast and raw. I was unconscious from surgery. My child was discharged without my consent. My mother orchestrated it. This woman, Melissa, is in possession of my daughter using false documents. And I have never signed over guardianship. Not once. He didn't speak for a few seconds. Just flipped through the file. Then he said, if this is true, it's criminal. You'll need police intervention. I've tried. They wouldn't take the report. I snapped. They said it's a family issue. So I'm here. He sighed, nodded. I'll sign the order for recovery. But you'll need a family law attorney ASAP. This is going to get ugly. Good, I said. Let it. The next morning, I showed up to Melissa's house with 2 cops and a court recovery agent. She opened the door and froze. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. The baby was crying in the background. My daughter. My daughter. The agent handed her the court order and said, ma'am, we're here to retrieve the child. You have no legal custody. Melissa started sobbing. I didn't do anything wrong. Her mother didn't want her. It was arranged. I have texts. I stepped forward. Show them. Let's see them. Let's see the message where I said, take my baby while I'm unconscious and change her damn name. She didn't say anything. She just stood there shaking. The officer asked where the baby was. Melissa walked inside, picked her up from the bouncer, and held her out. I nearly collapsed. She was heavier than I expected. Warm. Real. My daughter looked up at me and blinked. She didn't recognize me. Why would she? I hadn't seen her in over a week. But I held her. And I didn't let go. Not for a second. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I said, yes. For kidnapping, fraud, falsifying legal documents. Everything. But that wasn't the end. Because guess who showed up at my apartment that same night? My mom. She had the nerve to act shocked. Bella, she said, why would you do this? You weren't ready. You said so yourself. I was trying to help you. Melissa was going to give her a good life. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, she already had a life. With me. Then I slammed the door in her face. I'd won the first battle. But the war? It was just getting started. Getting my daughter back wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of the next round of hell. Melissa lawyered up the next day. She filed a petition claiming she had verbal guardianship, provided emergency care, and that I was mentally unstable and unfit to raise a child. She attached fake texts. I recognized the style, short, cold, robotic. It was my mom. She typed them out pretending to be me. Melissa's attorney tried to rush an emergency hearing to get the baby removed again for the child's safety. I showed up with a legal aid rep and the court order I already had. The judge denied the request, but set a full hearing date. I had 10 days to prepare. During those 10 days, my mom went nuclear. First, she showed up at my job. Yes, my actual workplace. Started crying in front of my manager, saying she was worried about Bella's postpartum mental state and that I'd kidnapped my own baby. Then she went after my neighbors, knocking on doors, telling people I'd abandoned my child, and she was just trying to keep the baby safe. I had to pull my building's security footage and file a no-contact order. It was granted fast. Apparently, she tried doing the same thing at Melissa's job. HR called it harassment. Still, the damage was done. The court day came, and I walked into that building like I was walking into a battlefield. Melissa sat across from me, trying to look fragile in some beige sweater, eyes puffy like she'd been crying all night. My mom sat behind her, not with her lawyer, not as a witness, just hovering, watching me. I never broke eye contact. They tried to spin the story, that I was overwhelmed, that I said I couldn't handle motherhood, that I'd offered the baby to Melissa. Then they pulled out the bomb, a printed email, supposedly from me, saying I gave full and formal consent for Melissa to take custody. It was a Gmail. I don't use Gmail. I stood up and said, "Your Honor, I've never owned that email address. Ever. Check it." It was created 3 days before the birth. The judge asked Melissa's lawyer, "Do you have IP logs? Device data? Any verification this came from her?" They didn't. That's when I dropped my final move. Screenshots of every communication I'd had with Melissa before the birth. All one-sided. All from her. Her offering help. Me never replying. Plus, a witness statement from a nurse who overheard Melissa say, "She's so drugged, she won't even know I held the baby." You could feel the air shift in the room. Judge looked at them, then at me. "I see no legal basis for the petitioner's claims. Custody remains with the biological mother, Bella." Game. Over. As I left the courtroom, my mom tried to follow me out. "Bella, please. Let's just talk." I turned to her and said, loud and clear, "The next time you see me, it'll be across a witness stand." And I meant it. A week after the custody hearing, I got the call I'd been waiting for. Detectives officially opened a criminal investigation. Forgery, custodial interference, filing false documents, fraud, and potentially conspiracy to traffic a minor. They didn't sugarcoat it. What they did, the detective said, wasn't just immoral. It was illegal and dangerous. They brought me in for a full statement. I laid it all out, from the hidden prenatal sabotage to the hospital discharge, to Melissa's fake paperwork and my mom's role behind the scenes. I gave them texts, screenshots, emails, daycare records, everything. They already had Melissa on the radar. But my mom, she was slippery. When the officers went to question her, she played innocent. Claimed I was emotionally unstable. Said she had tried to help the baby find a better future. That I was just young and angry and trying to punish her. But then she made a mistake. She gave them her phone. And guess what was still in her deleted folder? A screenshot of Zelle transfer. From Melissa. Labeled, "For Bella's care." $3,000. She was paid. Not for helping. Not for temporary custody. For me. For her granddaughter. That's all the police needed. Both my mother and Melissa were arrested the following week. Melissa was picked up from work. My mom, at her apartment, in her damn bathrobe. She screamed the whole time, according to the neighbors. "You can't do this to me. I'm her mother. This is all a mistake." No, Mom. The mistake was thinking I'd stay quiet. They were both charged, out on bail, but now fully locked in a case that could land them behind bars for years. But it wasn't over. I still had to testify. In court. Face to face. Melissa looked like a wreck. She wouldn't look at me. Her lawyer tried to paint her as misled, manipulated by my mother. Said she thought the baby was unwanted. That she believed she was helping. The judge didn't buy it. My mother's turn was worse. She tried to cry. Said she was scared for me. That I had no support. And she thought she was doing what any loving grandmother would do. I didn't even flinch. The prosecutor asked me one question. "Bella, were you ever consulted about the baby's transfer to Melissa?" I said not once. My mother decided I wasn't fit. She stole my child behind my back while I was unconscious. And she got paid to do it. Silence. Even the court reporter stopped typing for a second. The DA rested the case. And that's when it happened. After the hearing, one of Melissa's co-workers, someone I'd never met, approached me in the hallway. "You don't know me," she said, "but I think there's something you should see." She handed me an envelope. Inside, a printed email thread between Melissa and my mom, from months before I even gave birth. The subject line? "Baby girl confirmed. Let's finalize soon." That email thread was the final nail. Not just a plan, a negotiation. It detailed everything. My due date, hospital name, even notes on what to say if Bella starts resisting. Melissa and my mother had planned this months in advance. Like some underground transaction. Only it wasn't furniture or a used car. It was my daughter. I turned it over to the DA the same day. At sentencing, neither of them cried. Melissa pled guilty to custodial interference, forgery, and attempted fraud. She got 3 years probation, community service, and was barred from ever working around children again. My mother? She still tried to fight it. Her lawyer begged for leniency. She's a grandmother. A misguided one, but not a criminal. The judge didn't blink. She orchestrated a fraud, used forged documents, and exploited her daughter's medical condition. She's not misguided. She's manipulative. 6 months in jail. 2 years probation. No contact with me. No access to my daughter. Period. When they read the sentence, my mom turned around and glared at me like I ruined her life. Nah, you ruined your own. After court, I changed my number. Moved cities. Got a fresh start. I never told anyone where I went. My daughter's name is back to what I gave her. Her birth certificate corrected. Her records restored. She's mine. Fully. Legally. Undeniably. She just turned 1 last week. We had cake. Balloons. A tiny crown that she ripped off after 10 seconds and tried to eat. She doesn't know what happened yet. One day, maybe I'll tell her. But not now. For now, she gets to be a kid. And me? I get to be her mom. No more fear. No more courtrooms. No more waiting to be believed. Just us. And if anyone, ever tries to take her from me again, let's just say, I don't need a judge anymore.